but please know that all ages may remain in the service. All ages and all voices are welcome here. All are invited to stay today after service for coffee downstairs in the social hall. Visitors and newer folks are invited to pick up a green mug so that we may know to welcome you and get to know you better. May you each know that you are welcome in this house of peace, and may our worship and fellowship of this morning touch your heart, mind, spirit, and welcome to our celebration of community. Our music today will be provided by Jamie Passman, our music director. Tech, as always, is by Alex Dvorak. Couple of announcements. Longtime UCH member Stephanie Kirk passed away earlier this month. I know she was involved and loved working on our grounds. We will hold a memorial service January 4th, 2025 at 10:30 a.m. at Adolph and Powell Funeral Home. That's at 7000 South Madison Street in Willowbrook, Illinois. Again, that's 7000 South Madison Street in Willowbrook. The reception will start at 9:30 and a live stream of the service will also be available. On January 9th, Animal Ministry will have their post-holiday party. Everybody is welcome, but please RSVP as we need to reserve seats. More information is in our news and notes. And speaking of news and notes, there's always a lot going on in church, and you can read all about it. News and notes arrives in your inbox every Friday, and there are printed copies available. If you would like to sign up, you can do that at the welcome table as well. I'd like to acknowledge that we in the western suburbs inhabit areas that are traditional territories of indigenous people, including the Kickapoo, Peoria, Kaskaskia, Potawatomi, and others. There's been a lot in the news about abuses for Indians in what's supposed to be schools and orphanages. This shouldn't really be news. Canada's been grappling with this for many years, but I guess the United States is a little bit behind. But please try to keep that in mind. As people trying to live into a more just world, we have a responsibility to acknowledge the history and legacy of colonialism, the harm done to Native people, and also to work to repair that harm. And also, as you keep our Native people in our hearts, that opens up space for other oppressed individuals as well. So please rise in spirit or body for our opening song, number 1000, Morning Has Come.
Good morning. I'm the Reverend Dr. Brian Chenoweth, your minister for this Sunday here at the Unitarian Church of Hinsdale. It is a joy to be with you from Lexington, Kentucky, back to Hinsdale, Illinois. Happy Hanukkah, happy Kwanzaa, of course, Merry Christmas, the 12 days of Christmas, Happy soon-to-be New Year, happy solstice, and all of the others that I may have left out. May you celebrate this season of light and joy in a way that feels good and right for you. Our gathering words come to us from the luminous poet Alberto Rios, from his poem titled A House Called Tomorrow. He writes to us, "You are not 15 or 12 or 17. You are 100 wild centuries. Everyone who has come before you, all the yous that you have been, the mothers of your mother, the fathers of your father. If someone in your family tree was terrible, 100 were not. The bad do not win, not finally, no matter how loud they might be. We simply would not be here if that were so. You are made fundamentally from the good, and with this knowledge you never march alone. You are the breaking news of the century. You are the good who has come forward. From those centuries, we human beings bring with us the simple solutions and songs that we can make a house called tomorrow. What we bring finally into each new day, every day, is ourselves, and that's all we need. It is good to be together this morning."
Now please join us as we light the chalice. May we know once again that we are not
Isolated beings,
but
connected in mystery and miracle to the universe, to this community, and to each other.
Thank you. Is Pam here today? Pam, do we have a time for all ages? Oh, all right. We will move on to the offering. We know that our financial contributions to this congregation come from sacrifice and hard work. We are grateful for this and commit together to ensure the funds we gather collectively do a greater good for ourselves and our world than they could have done alone. Please join us in our offering words. This church is made up of all of us. It is what we learn together, the work we do together, the fun we have together. It is what we share with one another, with the people around us, and with all the world.
I'm going to invite us to shift the energy in the room just a bit into one of contemplation, reflection, meditation, in a way that feels good and right for you. You can close your eyes if you like. You can stare right at me or the back of someone's head. Fix on a point somewhere in this room and just breathe together. Breathe in whatever it is that you need in this moment on the cusp of a new year, after the year that we have had as a people, as Unitarian Universalists, and a people who care about justice. And breathe out restoration for your life, for those next to you, and for people you do not even know. Great way, pray, to meditate or reflect. It is just this, breathing together. O Spirit of life, we are to join as one community seeking the About so many things in this world of ours, a community that seeks justice, that tries to live our values and high ideals as best as we can. May we hearts that here we are not alone in this space, that we have friends for the journey. May we know that our sorrow may lead to the summer of our joy, and may we always, always do something good and right in this world of ours, no matter what it is. For however it is enough, no matter what we do. Let's join in silence. Amen. I believe we will sing now. It'll be We Are, number 1051, if you have the teal hymnal in front of you. Let us join our voices in song. Arrived at a time where you are invited to share your personal joys and sorrows with this gathered beloved community. You're invited to come forward at this time, I believe as is the custom of this congregation, and drop a stone into the bowl of water and then share briefly what your joy or sorrow may be with this gathered community. Are there any among us who would like to share?
Stone is for my mother-in-law, Sandy, who is currently in the hospital with a kidney stone. Sounds very painful.
I'm Tony. I'm sharing wonderful time.
I'm Delia, and I'm starting a tax internship soon. I'm very excited.
And one final stone for any joys or sorrows not shared this morning.
Today's reading is Dead Stars by Ada Limon. Out here, there's a bowing even the trees are doing, winter's icy hand at the back of all of us. Black bark, slick yellow leaves, a kind of stillness that feels so mute it's almost in another year. I am a hearth of spiders, these days a nest of trying. We point out the stars that make Orion as we take out the trash, the rolling containers, a song of suburban thunder. It's almost romantic as we adjust the waxy blue recycling bin until you say, man, we should really learn some new constellations. And it's true, we keep forgetting about Antilla, Centaurus, Draco, Lacerta, Hydra, Lyra, Lynx. But mostly we're forgetting we're dead stars too. My mouth is full of dust and I wish to reclaim the rising. To learn in the spotlight of the streetlight with you towards what's larger within us, towards how we were born. Look, we are not unspectacular things. We've come this far, survived this much. What would happen if we decided to survive more, to love harder? What if we stood up with our synapses and flesh and said no, no to the rising tides, stood for the many mute mouths of the sea, of the land? What would happen if we used our bodies to bargain for the safety of others, for Earth, if we declared a clean night, if we stopped being terrified, if we launched our demands into the sky, made ourselves so big, people could point to us with the arrows they make in their minds, rolling their trash bins out after all of this is over.
Well, happy almost New Year. A question I find that I've been asking a lot lately, and I'm sure you've been asked a lot lately since something happened in this country just a short time ago is, how are you doing? Don't ask. That's a good answer. How is it with your spirit? Tough. How is it with the swirl of holidays that we are in the midst of? Joy to the world, like candles in the night. How is it since November for you? How is it with this whole world we are faced with every single day? I want you to know that don't ask and tough and I don't know are perfect answers. Some of you, maybe you're fine. Or are you fine? Which stands for frickin' insecure, neurotic, and exhausted. Fine. Good Midwestern response. Are you numb? Are you sad, fearful, bewildered, angry? And maybe even yet there's still joy and contentment and possibility in your life. Is anyone just struggling how to even name what they're feeling amidst all of it? One major noticing that I have had myself, and I know you have likely had as well, if you see the news or you've talked to your friends, is that this time we are in feels different this time around. Life in some way has continued. Some people are responding with, I just don't have time to respond to this, or I don't want to respond to this. I don't know how to respond to this or where to turn. And there's no one right way for spiritual progressives to feel right now, because it might be a time of grief, and grief will ignore how you think you need to feel. Something that I've shared with the congregation I serve is that the day after the election, I was going to have lunch with a rabbi friend of mine, and I won't tell you the conversation we had. It was full of four-letter words, here a minister and a rabbi over euros, and people looking at us very suspiciously. But as I was driving around, I was so filled with grief and anger and bewilderment driving around the streets of Kentucky that every time I saw a certain bumper sticker or signal, I gave a one-finger salute to the person there. And that might be shocking, a clergy person doing that, but I think people need to know, yes, me too, I don't know how to feel. And the anger rises unbidden. But I've stopped doing that, don't worry. Because I remembered I live in Kentucky, where there's guns in every car. But however you're responding, however you are feeling, with this world that we live in, with the election we just faced, with the elections that other nations are experiencing, with wars in Ukraine and Gaza, Sudan, which is still left out of the news, and with the emergence of the climate crisis. These existential threats that no one has ever really faced. Maybe they were familiar or similar, but no one has faced that particular one of the climate crisis. It's a lot on the cusp of a new year. It is a lot. There is loss and there is more to come. So what is this time before us is the question that I have been asking people, I've been asking myself, my friends, my colleagues, congregation members, you this morning. This cusp of 2024, when we might, 2025, when one might say to 2024, good luck, don't let the door hit you. For some, the response might be to circle the wagons. But this is not a time to circle the wagons, it's a time to prepare the wagons for a long, long, long journey. And what that is asking me, and I hope is asking you, is for all of us to look to the future. Not an imagined future, one that we could never possibly inhabit, but a future that comes about by what we do today, what we do in the next few moments of our lives, what we do tomorrow in this community and beyond. We cannot know what is going to await any of us in life. That is a general principle of living, but we cannot know what is awaiting us in this time of great turning in our world. But how we respond is unlimited. And for me, I'm finding it is a time of deep trust for the people I care about, the people I serve. And for Unitarian Universalists, sometimes trust is one of those lovely things we like to say we don't have. We don't trust authority, we don't trust creeds or other communities. But it's not that we don't trust. It's that we as Unitarian Universalists want to be heard. And so it's a time for us to be heard. But most importantly, it's a time for us to get our imagination, our creativity, and our possibility reignited. Ada Limon, the poet you just heard, another Lexingtonian, speaks of the wonder of looking at the stars of Orion, which is in our night sky this very time of year. But then she concludes with, man, we need to really learn some new constellations. The constellation we knew or trusted or hoped for in America, for me, its refulgence has waned. It's still there, but it doesn't shine as brightly for me. And there's a reality in such an acknowledgement for myself. This is America. Choices were made. Many of us live in fear and worry. Many of us don't know how to feel. Many of us want to say, no, that's not my America. That's not my president. But it is. And that acknowledgement, I believe, as hard and as much as I don't even want to say it, allows paths of change to emerge. Using Ada Limon, looking at the sky, finding the same old constellations we used to rely on for hope and wonder and illumination. It's a beautiful image. Stars connected by tradition, by lore, by mythology, but she continues, we are forgetting we are dead stars too. My mouth is full of ashes and I wish to reclaim the rising. Reclaim the rising. It's an important distinction here. What I found in Unitarian Universalist circles is we love to talk about how we're dead stars. We are stardust that is illuminated, but so is the trash can, right? So are the people we hate or don't like, the people we would rather not talk to. But for us, the distinction in her words that's important is reclaim the rising. It's a phrase you can let yourself feel right here if you let yourself. Reclaim the rising. Because like the morning star, like the sun, like the moon, like the constellations of the sky, we too can rise. We too can be a light. We too can connect ourselves to one another. Draw down the heavens and be a constellation of hope, a a constellation of resistance, resilience, creativity, indelible and whole and holy. Not a rejection of everything before us, not at all, but a new way. For me, I found myself not rejecting everything that has come before me, but I've been turning more and more to the old stories that faith traditions have told throughout thousands of years. I find myself turning to the Exodus story in so many different ways, knowing that it is a long journey. And from that story, seeing that the people had to take care of their needs, that there were complaints, there was a desire to return to bondage in Mitzrayim, which was called the narrow place. And yet the people endured. And when they crossed the sea, Miriam took out her tambourine and played songs of gladness, and they danced and danced and danced. I find myself turning to Buddhist stories from the 4 great persecutions of the Tang and Zhao dynasties that solidified Chan and Zen Buddhism and a new way of looking at the world and radical acceptance of the life before us, even if we don't particularly like it, but still empowering us to respond and respond. And we get these brilliant stories that come to us from luminaries like Thich Nhat Hanh or Pema Chodron, but they too had their struggles. Thich Nhat Hanh lived his whole life in exile. And let's remember that when we read his beautiful words. Pema Chodron has struggled with health issues her whole life. Remember that when we read her words. I'm looking to the cycle of the seasons, from the longest night that we just acknowledged when the light returns, always to stories and myths rooted deep in lineages and wisdom and ancient traditions. The stories of Persephone, the stories of Balder, the stories that the holly and oak king always knew life, knew light, returning from the depths. But so too I'm looking to our Unitarian Universalist history in this time. I'm looking to a story from Matthew Toretskoy. Anyone familiar with the story of Matthew Toretskoy that went to UU Sunday School? It's because we don't teach that story in UU Sunday School. Matthew Toretskoy was a Unitarian bishop in the Transylvania region in the early 1600s amidst great Catholic oppression. And he was being hunted by the Catholics at that time. And so what he did is he found an abandoned mine, dwelled deep within it, fearing for his life every day, scrounging for food brought to him by villagers and his friends that were working the underground to avoid the oppression. And what he did, instead of despair, is by candlelight, he wrote songs and produced the first hymnal for the Transylvanian Unitarians. And when they emerged from that oppression, they sang songs of joy and hope and resilience, birthed in the depths, in uncertainty, in fear. I'm looking to the history of this congregation. When William Channing Gannett was the minister so many years ago, and he too wrote songs amidst great uncertainty, amidst great change. And people sung out from this place and beyond, from heart to heart, from creed to creed, the hidden river runs. Always the hidden river runs. For me, all of these stories and so many others we could lift up this morning are grounded in a visceral hope for each and every one of us. A hope that does not suffer complacency or burying our heads in the sand as much as we might want to. A hope that pieces our broken hearts back together with duct tape, chewing gum, bits of string and buttons, whatever we can find, staples, whatever. And it should it get rough and even more frightening. As we do that work of piecing ourselves back together, it's a hope that foster anger, that stifle creativity and imagination. And he wrote, every fanatic harbors a secret doubt. Every fanatic harbors a secret doubt, which is why such movements don't just want to win. They want to control and dominate. Resistance begins with never, ever surrendering your imagination and your integrity. The great Ralph Waldo Emerson once wrote, "Nothing is at last sacred but the integrity of your own mind," that absolve you to yourself, and you shall have the suffrage of the world. Absolve you to yourself. Absolve this place, this community, this beloved church home you use to each other. And that might be a loaded word for Unitarian Universalists. Absolution, absolve. Some of you fled words like that. You can turn to the old Latin. Absolve comes from the word to complete. So complete yourself. Complete each other. And putting it that way, the work of completion, amidst great turning and strife and fear and anger, I feel a hopeful path emerges. How? Does surrendering to hopelessness and cynicism complete you? Not at all, not in a healthy, wholehearted way. And we might want to give in, but I reject that. And I choose to write hymns by candlelight. I choose to look to the night sky and each other and make our own constellations, luminous paths forward between each other, when sometimes we feel that there is no way forward. Make connections to people, to places, to ideas, to boldness that wouldn't exist otherwise, mapping out a way forward, creating a way out of no way. And in all of that expansiveness, and with everything we are facing in the world, we need to begin hyper-local. Begin right here, in this room. Begin in Lexington, Kentucky. Begin in Hinsdale, Illinois. Because this great turning that we are facing, we cannot fix that by ourselves. And I love Unitarian Universalists. I wish the whole world was Unitarian Universalists, because we all think we can fix the problems of the world. We have ideas about how to do that, and boy, we can get things done when we unite with people of goodwill who want to do them. But we can't fix all of this. And I feel that that is part of the problem we are facing, is that we are so super global and hyper connected. We carry the burden of everything that comes through our phones and our news feed, on Twitter, on Blue Sky, whatever you're using these days, TikTok. We carry the burden of what is ever in our news feed on Facebook, on MSNBC or CNN, or if you choose Fox News or local news. And that's not an invitation to not care. We still can do that. But it's an invitation to consider, what are we doing to ourselves by carrying the burden of the whole world? And with what's coming, and by all accounts, it looks like our incoming administration will try to deport 11 million people. The word is try. It looks like our incoming administration will try to demonize LGBTQ people like myself, especially our trans siblings, and so many more things. We don't know where or when we will be called to act first. But we can begin here, building our skills, nurturing resilience for all of us. It's a place to begin, but not a place to remain for us. And we will need each other. So we start locally. In Lexington, Kentucky, I don't know if you know much about Kentucky. There's a few people in Kentucky that are not very popular in national news. In Lexington, Kentucky, we are raising money, inviting donors to match grants so that we can become a sanctuary congregation, so that we can turn the attic of our farmhouse into a bunk room in case people need a place to stay, so that we can start storing gender-affirming care and women's health care for distribution, to do ride shares for women across state lines to Illinois for the time being. And all of it's beginning locally for us, and inspiring each other to think of what we can do for our neighbors and make available to each other. So what will you do? I don't know, but I'm excited to hear what you might do. But I know it starts with creating a home, creating a sanctuary, where those of us who are terrified, those of us who don't know, those of us that don't know what's coming, can just be be affirmed, be heard, be seen, be welcomed. A place where we can find our people. And if you don't know where your people are, look around this morning. Here they are sitting next to you. To rely on them. To invest not just in the beloved community, which we talk about a lot as you use, but a beloved commitment to community. My connection to this congregation goes back to the late 90s and early 2000s. And I don't have time to tell all of that story, but as a queer kid at York Community High School in the early 2000s, it was not a good experience. The teachers were not affirming, and so many of the kids were not affirming. But what I found from connections to people in this congregation, I'll just call him out, and the best man for my wedding that I met in high school and was a part of this congregation. I didn't point right at him. But what I found was a place of safety, a place to be seen, a place to be heard, a place where I knew there was a way forward. And though my life took me down many twisting, turning, bizarre, sometimes completely unhealthy and reckless paths, when it all fell apart, I knew the sanctuary here still remained. And I have carried that with myself when I've served Unity Temple in Oak Park, when I've served First Parish in Concord, Massachusetts, and now for 10 years in Lexington, Kentucky. Sanctuary, home, hope. Ada Limon concludes with, look, we are not unspectacular things. We have come this far, survived this much. What would happen if we decided to survive more, to love harder? What would happen if we decided to survive more, to love harder? I don't know what awaits any of us, but I choose that. Surviving harder, loving more. And I know if we each can choose some measure of that, in Hinsdale, in Kentucky, in Alabama, wherever, we will resist. We will seek out those who will join us, those who need us, those that need to know a place such as this will provide sanctuary, and we will never lose hope. A tearful, laughing, visceral, sorrowful, joyful, complex, but always sustaining hope. And so that is my hope for all of you in this new year of 2025. May it be so, dear friends. Amen.
Please join us as we say our chalice extinguishing words. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of its truth, the warmth of this community, nor the fire of our commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together. Now please rise and body our spirit for our closing hymn, Blue Boat Home.
Still I find dark and stay.
benediction, I just want to say thank you to the wonderful worship associate, Jean, today. Thank you for being here, for Jamie, for the beautiful music on piano. Thank you, and everyone. Of course, the tech in the back. You hold these services together, and for everyone that helps make this congregation continue to be a wonderful, welcoming sanctuary. So thank you all. Also, hi, Mom, you're in the audience, and my mother-in-law, father-in-law, husband, Lee, Colleen, hello. I get to do that. All right. Our benediction comes again from the wondrous Alberto Rios. Look back only for as long as you must. Then go forward into history that you will make. Be good, then better. Write books, cure disease, make us proud, make yourself proud. And those who came before you, when you hear thunder, hear it as their applause. May you go well into this day, dear friends, and may you go loved. Blessed be.